Gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone systematically distorts your reality. They deny things that clearly happened, insist events occurred differently, and make you question your own memory and sanity. It's not just disagreeing. It's a deliberate pattern designed to erode your confidence in your own mind. It starts small. You remember a conversation one way. They swear it never happened. You express hurt. They tell you you're too sensitive or imagining things. Over time, these denials accumulate. You start doubting yourself before even speaking up. The power lies in its subtlety. There's no dramatic moment, just a slow erosion, one denied conversation at a time. Eventually, you trust their version of events more than your own experience. That's control. To spot it, notice patterns of denial that contradict your clear memory. Pay attention when someone consistently tells you you're remembering wrong. The key defense is documentation. Write things down. Save messages. When you have evidence, gaslighting loses power. And if you constantly question your sanity around someone, that's the biggest red flag. Love bombing. Love bombing is excessive attention and affection used to overwhelm your judgment. It's not genuine care. It's calculated strategy to create intense emotional dependency quickly, before you can evaluate if the relationship is healthy. It feels incredible at first. Constant texting, overwhelming compliments, talk of forever after days. They say you're perfect, their soulmate, unlike anyone they've met. The intensity is intoxicating. You feel special in ways you've never experienced. But that's the trap. Once you're hooked on that high, they have leverage. They pull back, go cold, and you'll do anything to get that feeling back. You ignore red flags, accept poor treatment, compromise boundaries, all trying to return to those early magical days. This appears in narcissistic relationships, cult recruitment, and certain sales tactics. Real love builds gradually with space and respect for boundaries. Love bombing is a flood designed to sweep you away. To spot it, watch for intensity that doesn't match the timeline. If someone talks about forever on date 2, that's a warning. Notice if attention feels performative rather than genuine. The key defense is slowing things down deliberately. Healthy relationships can handle a slower pace. Manipulative ones can't. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping weaponizes obligation. The manipulator makes you feel like you owe them, like saying no makes you selfish or ungrateful. They don't ask directly. Instead, they create emotional atmosphere where refusing feels like moral failure. It sounds like sighs and silences. After everything I've done for you, or I guess I'll handle it myself. The hurt look when you set boundaries. The reminder of past favors when you're unavailable. They're not forcing you. They're just making you feel terrible if you don't comply. This works especially well on empathetic people. If you care about others' feelings and try to be good, you're vulnerable. The manipulator knows this and exploits your kindness by turning it against you. It shows up everywhere. Parents guilt-tripping adult children, friends who keep score of favors, partners who make you feel selfish for having needs. The pattern is always the same. Your boundaries become evidence of your inadequacy. To spot it, notice when you feel guilty but can't identify what you actually did wrong. Watch for people who keep score and remind you of what they've done, especially when you're setting boundaries. The key defense is distinguishing real guilt from manipulated guilt. Real guilt comes from violating your values. Manipulated guilt comes from someone else's expectations. You're allowed to say no. Triangulation. Triangulation is pulling a third party into a two-person conflict to avoid direct communication. Instead of talking to you, the manipulator talks to someone else about you, then uses that person's opinion as leverage. Suddenly, you're not disagreeing with one person, but facing an invisible coalition. It sounds like everyone thinks you're overreacting, or I talked to Sarah and she agrees with me. They create the impression that multiple people share their view, making you feel isolated and outnumbered. This serves multiple purposes. It avoids direct confrontation. It recruits allies who only hear one side. It makes you feel like you're fighting a group rather than one person. And it damages your relationships with third parties who may not know they're being used. This appears in families where one person complains about another to a third member instead of direct conversation. In workplaces where someone undermines you by talking to your boss instead of you. In friend groups where someone spreads their version before you know there's a problem. To spot it, notice when someone references other people's opinions instead of stating their own. Pay attention to everyone thinks or we all feel without knowing who that includes. The key defense is refusing to engage with the triangle. Say directly, if someone has a problem with me, they can talk to me. Don't defend yourself against unnamed accusers. Silent treatment. The silent treatment is withdrawing communication as punishment. It's not taking space to process. It's deliberate refusal to engage. designed to make you anxious and desperate to fix whatever caused the silence. The manipulator uses your need for resolution against you. They go cold, distant, unreachable. They won't tell you what's wrong. They won't engage. That silence becomes unbearable. You replay everything, trying to figure out what you did. You apologize for things you're not sure happened. You bend over backward to get them to talk again. That's exactly the point. It puts all power in their hands. They control when the relationship feels safe. They control when you get relief from anxiety. And they train you to avoid whatever triggered the silence, even if that behavior was completely reasonable. This appears in romantic relationships, parent-child dynamics, and friendships. It's particularly damaging because it prevents resolution. You can't fix a problem if the other person won't communicate. To spot it, distinguish healthy space from punitive silence. Healthy space sounds like, I need time to think, let's talk tomorrow. Punitive silence is just absence with no communication about when it will end. The key defense is refusing to chase. State you're willing to talk when they are, then stop pursuing. Don't apologize just to end silence. Projection. Projection is accusing others of exactly what the manipulator themselves is doing. The cheater accuses you of cheating. The liar calls you dishonest. The person planning to leave accuses you of abandoning them. They take what's true about them and throw it on to you. It serves multiple purposes. It deflects attention from their behavior. It confuses you because accusations seem to come from nowhere, and it allows them to express their guilt by making it about you instead. The disorienting part is that projection often contains specific details that feel bizarrely accurate, just aimed at the wrong person. You find yourself defending against accusations that make no sense while their actual behavior goes unexamined. This shows up in relationships where one person is hiding something and becomes hypervigilant about the other's behavior. In workplaces where someone undermining the team accuses others of not being team players. It's common when people attribute their own motivations to opponents. To spot it, notice when accusations seem to come from nowhere or feel disproportionate to your behavior. Pay attention when someone is intensely focused on a specific behavior in you, especially if you haven't done it. The key defense is not taking the bait. Don't get lost defending yourself. Instead, turn focus back. That's interesting you bring that up. What makes you think of it? Moving goalposts. Moving goalposts is changing standards after you've met them. You accomplish what was asked, and suddenly it's not enough. The target keeps shifting so you can never actually succeed, keeping you in perpetual state of striving. It sounds like yes, but followed by new requirements. You finish the project on time, but now the format needs changing. You meet their stated need, but now there's something else. You do exactly what they asked, and they claim they meant something different. This maintains control by ensuring you never reach the finish line. If you could actually meet the standard, you'd have leverage. But if the standard keeps changing, you're always falling short, always needing to do more, always trying to prove yourself. This appears in toxic work environments where no effort is ever enough, in relationships where one person's needs keep expanding, in family dynamics where approval is always conditional on one more achievement. To spot it, notice patterns of shifting standards. Pay attention when you meet requirements, but the response is adding new ones, rather than acknowledging what you accomplished. The key defense is naming the pattern. We agreed on X. I've done X. If you need something different, that's a new request, not a failure on my part. DARVO stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. It's a three-step process manipulators use when confronted. First, deny what happened. Second, attack you for bringing it up. Third, flip the script so they're the victim and you're the aggressor. You come with a legitimate concern. They deny it happened the way you remember. Then they attack. You're too sensitive. Always starting drama, trying to make them look bad, have issues you need to work on. Finally, they become the victim. They're being attacked. They have to deal with your constant accusations. They're suffering in this relationship. By the end, you're defending yourself instead of addressing the original issue. You're trying to prove you're not crazy, not oversensitive, not the problem. The conversation about their behavior has become entirely about your character. This is common in abusive relationships and used by institutions when accused of wrongdoing. It's effective because it puts the person raising concerns on defensive, making them prove credibility rather than addressing the actual issue. To spot it, watch for the three-step pattern. Notice when someone responds to accountability with denial, then personal attacks, then victimhood claims. The key defense is recognizing the pattern and refusing to engage. Don't defend your character. Return to the original issue. We can discuss my tone later. Right now, I need to talk about what happened. Playing victim. Playing victim is positioning yourself as the injured party regardless of your actual role. The manipulator takes any confrontation about their behavior and flips it so they become the one who's been wrong. You came to address something they did, and somehow you end up comforting them. You try to explain how something hurt you, and suddenly they're crying about how attacked they feel. You set a boundary, and they talk about how rejected and abandoned they are. You ask for accountability, and they describe how victimized they are by your accusations. This exploits empathy. If you care when others hurt, you'll instinctively shift into caretaking when someone presents as wounded. The manipulator knows this and uses your compassion against you. This shows up in relationships where one person can never be held accountable because they always collapse into victimhood when confronted. In workplaces where someone responds to feedback by talking about how hard they have it. In families where one member's fragility becomes why everyone walks on eggshells. To spot it, notice if someone consistently becomes the victim whenever you address their behavior. Pay attention to whether emotional response is proportionate or designed to derail conversation. The key defense is staying focused. I hear you're upset, and I still need to talk about what happened. Don't let empathy erase the problem you came to discuss. Intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is providing rewards unpredictably. Sometimes the person is amazing, sometimes cold or cruel, and you never know which version you'll get. This unpredictability is more addictive than consistent positive treatment because your brain becomes obsessed with figuring out the pattern. It's the slot machine principle. If you won every time, you'd get bored. If you never won, you'd stop playing. But winning sometimes, unpredictably, keeps you pulling the lever. In relationships, this looks like someone occasionally wonderful, giving just enough good moments to keep you hoping, while the overall pattern is neglectful or abusive. The good moments feel extra intense because they're rare and because you've been starved for positive attention. When someone cold suddenly shows affection, it creates a rush of relief and hope. You think maybe things are changing, maybe you figured out what they need, maybe this time it will last, but it doesn't. This appears in romantic relationships where someone is hot and cold, in friendships where someone is sometimes supportive, sometimes dismissive, in work environments where a boss occasionally praises, but mostly criticizes. To spot it, look at overall pattern rather than individual moments. Yes, they were great last Tuesday, but what about the other 6 days? Notice if you're constantly trying to figure out what makes them treat you well versus poorly. The key defense is recognizing that inconsistency is the pattern. Consistent mediocre treatment is healthier than occasional excellence mixed with cruelty. 10 manipulation tactics. 10 ways people try to control you. Gaslighting makes you doubt reality. Love bombing creates artificial intensity. Guilt tripping weaponizes empathy. Triangulation uses third parties. Silent treatment punishes with absence. Projection accuses you of their behavior. Moving goalposts ensures you never succeed. Playing victim deflects accountability. Intermittent reinforcement keeps you addicted. DARVO turns your concerns into attacks on your character. These work because they exploit normal human needs. The need to be understood, loved, to maintain relationships, to be good. Manipulators take healthy drives and twist them into vulnerabilities. The key to protection is recognition. You can't defend against what you can't see, but once you recognize these patterns, they lose power. You stop questioning yourself when someone gaslights. You slow down when someone love bombs. You hold boundaries when someone guilt trips. Not everyone using these tactics is consciously manipulative. Some learn these patterns in childhood, but impact matters more than intent. Whether someone means to manipulate or not, the effect is the same. You deserve relationships where communication is direct, accountability is possible, and reality is respected. You deserve people who can hear concerns without making themselves the victim. You deserve consistency, honesty, and respect. Which of these have you experienced? Drop it in the comments. And if this gave you clarity, subscribe. We break down psychology of human behavior every week. Next, we're covering every hidden advantage of your birth month. Manipulation only works in darkness. Shine light on it, and you take your power back.